Shalom, shalom, as we continue the second portion of the Sabbath, the feast days, the appointed times, and the new moons. We're going to pick up on the first fruit offerings. We've already looked at the seventh day Sabbath. We've looked at the Passover Sabbath. The seventh day Sabbath is different from any other Sabbath. It begins in the morning and concludes in the evening. No work, no cooking. The Passover Sabbath begins in the evening of the 14th day, a specific day, and concludes before the 15th day of the month. It concludes, which makes it a 12-hour period, and on the Passover, we are able to cook. Then we see, and it's a 12-hour period from evening to morning. And this gives way to the Feast of Unleavened Bread, that we're instructed begins on the 15th day in the morning, and it concludes on the 21st day in the evening. So now we look at the first fruit and the Feast of Weeks. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 10. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye be come into the land which I will give you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then you shall bring a sheaf, an omar, or bundle of grain, of the first fruit of your harvest unto the priest. Leviticus 23:11. And you shall wave the sheaf before Yahuwah to be accepted for you on the morrow the next day, after the Sabbath. Well, what Sabbath? The Sabbath of the first day of unleavened bread. See Leviticus 23:7. The priest shall wave it. Leviticus 23:12. And you shall offer it that day. This was going to be the 16th day of the month. This is the day after the Sabbath. What Sabbath? The Sabbath takes place on the 15th day of the month of unleavened bread. The next day is the first fruit offering. So on Leviticus chapter 23:12, and you shall offer it that day, this is the 16th of the month, when you wave the sheaf, a he lamb, a ram just old enough to butt, a lamb or sheep without blemish of the first year, for a burnt offering unto Yahuwah. The skin was then to be given to the priest. This was to be done 2 times a day with flour, oil, and a drink offering in the morning, and 1 in the evening. Now, again, that word evening is areb, which means right at the dusk. So it's in the early morning, and then it's in the evening hours, right before it gets dark. Leviticus 23:13. I want you to listen carefully. And the meat offering, this is the sacrifice, mostly a bloodless one. It's the cereal in some translations. So the offering of grain thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour. This is Leviticus 23:13. And thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour, mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah for a sweet savor. And the drink offering thereof shall be of wine. All right, okay. So we got a lamb, and flour and oil, okay, and the drink offering. Got it. All right, and the drink offering shall be of wine. Now, the amount is the 4th part of a hin. Now, a hin is a liquid measure, and it's approximately 1.5 gallons, but we're going to take a quarter of that. A quarter of that of a hin would be approximately 40 ounces. Hold up. So let's review this again. We are to bring a young lamb, fried, put some batter on it, little flour, oil, and a 40 ounce of wine. So we're to fry this lamb with oil and flour, and bringing 40 ounces of wine to Yahuwah. Wow. Can y'all see we be those people? Okay, I digress. Look at that, man. Yah said bring lamb chops, fry them up, and bring a 40 ounce. Leviticus chapter 23:14. And ye shall eat neither bread, nor parched corn, nor green herbs, until the selfsame day that you brought an offering unto your Elohim. In other words, you do not eat or drink until you bring this offering. You do this first thing in the morning. It shall be a statute forever. H5769 means perpetual, without end. We do so throughout all your generations in all your dwellings. Leviticus 23:15. And ye shall count unto you for the morrow. This is the day after. Tomorrow after the Sabbath. That's the 16th. What day is it? If the Sabbath of unleavened bread is always on the 15th, then on the 16th, see Leviticus 23:6, from the day that you brought the sheaf, that's your Omar offering, 7 Sabbaths, 7 days of rest shall be complete. Leviticus 23:16, even unto the morrow after the seventh Sabbath shall ye number 50 days, and you shall offer a new meat offering. Usually this is the bloodless one, a cereal unto Yahuwah. So let's recap. Leviticus 23:17. It continues. Not recapping, it continues. Leviticus 23:17. You shall bring out of your habitations 2 waves, 2 wave loaves, that's of bread or grain, of 2/10 deals. That's the measurement. There should be a fine flour. They should be baking with leaven. They are the first fruits unto Yahuwah. Leviticus 23:18. And you shall offer with the bread 7 lambs, a ram just old enough to butt, without blemish, of the first year, 1 young bullock, 2 rams. They shall be for a burnt offering unto Yahuwah, with their meat offering and their drink offerings, even an offering made by fire of sweet savor unto Yahuwah. Then you shall sacrifice 1 kid, that's a goat, for a sin offering, and 2 lambs of the first year for a sacrifice of a peace offering. And that's a total of 10 animal sacrifices. If we go to the book of Jubilee, chapter 6, verse 16, he said a rainbow in the clouds is a sign of the eternal covenant, that there should never again be a flood on the earth. Jubilee 6:17. For this reason, it is written in the heavenly tablets that they should celebrate the Feast of Weeks in this month once a year, to renew the covenant every year. So in the book of Jubilee, it's telling us that this feast even superseded during the time of Moses. Jubilee 6:18. This whole festival was celebrated in heaven from the day of creation until the days of Noah, which were 26 jubilees. That's 1,270 years. And 5 weeks of years. That's 35 years. This is a total of 1,309 years. Jubilee 6:21. For it is the Feast of Weeks and the Feast of First Fruit. This feast is twofold. The first fruit and the Feast of Weeks go together, and it's of a double nature according to what is written and engraved concerning it, celebrated. So that takes the Feast of First Fruit as well as the Feast of Weeks. Now we're going to move to the Day of Trumpets, Yom Teruah. Now, oftentimes, this is erroneously referred to as Rosh Hashanah. This is a corruption of syncretism that began with our Babylonian captivity. Now, the Babylonians celebrated the first day of the month as a new year, and they called it Akitu. We, in turn, began to emulate this when we were in captivity, and we emulated their celebration. However, Yahuwah, through the text specifically in Leviticus chapter 23, verses 24 and 25, and Numbers chapter 29, verses 1 to 6, explains the Day of Trumpets, the Day of Teruah. It is not Rosh Hashanah. Leviticus chapter 23:24. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, this is the Kadash, a new moon, by implying a month. In the first, this is the first day of the month, shall ye have a Shabbaton, a Sabbath, a special day of rest, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, and holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein, but you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. For this lesson, our focus is on the understanding of the various Sabbaths. However, in subsequent teachings, we will explain the offers specified in each of the festivals. That being said, on the Sabbath day of trumpet, it includes, specifically for the children of Israel, it takes place in the 7th month, on the first day of the 7th month. It is a Shabbaton, Hebrews 7:6-7-7. This is another Sabbath. It is a memorial. This is a record keeping, a celebration. Food is cooked at the celebrations. The memorial is marked by blowing of trumpets. It's a set apart public gathering. We must offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. So the Day of Trumpets is another Sabbath. It is not the 7th day Sabbath. It is not the Passover Sabbath. It is not the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It is not the first fruit / Feast of Weeks, which is a twofold Sabbath. It is a specific Sabbath to be done at a specific time of the year the 7th month, and on the 1st day of that month. Now we're going to go into, this one here caused much confusion in our people. But now we're clearing this up. This is a Day of Atonement. This is an evening to evening Sabbath. This is 24 hours. Now, Leviticus chapter 16:29. And this shall be a statute forever unto you. How long? That in the 7th month, and on the 10th day of the month, you shall afflict your souls. This is the Hebrew word 603:1, anah, which means to depress through the ideas of looking down. Some say that this is not dealing with a fast, but you go to Ezra chapter 8, verse 21 and Isaiah 58:3, you'll see that both of these texts are referring to a fast. So we are to afflict our souls to fast. Leviticus 16:29b. And do no work at all, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger that sojourneth among you. This is another Sabbath. Again, it is not the 7th day of rest. It is not the 12-hour Passover Sabbath. It is not the Feast of Unleavened Bread Sabbath. It is not the First Fruit Shavuot Shabbat, nor is it the Sabbath of Yom Teruah, the Day of Trumpets. This is a Sabbath of Yom Kippur, a Day of Atonement, Leviticus 23:27. Also on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a Day of Atonement. The word here is Kippur, Hebrew 37:25. It shall be a set-apart convocation, where to gather together. It's a called-out assembly. Unto you, and you shall afflict your souls, and offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. So we are instructed to fast on this Sabbath, Leviticus 23:28. And you shall do no work in that same day. This is the 10th day. For it is a day, the 10th day, a day of atonement, to make atonement for you before Yahuwah, your Elohim. Now, how important is this? Let me see. Do I really have to do it? Leviticus chapter 23:29. For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among the people. So we have to get this day right, because he's telling us in the 7th month and the 10th day that we have to do this. If we miss this by a day, let's see what happens. For whatever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among the people. And whatsoever soul it be that doeth any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. Sounds pretty important to me. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 32. And it shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, as all Sabbaths are, and you shall afflict your souls. Sabbath days are rest, but fasting is unique to Yom Kippur. Now watch this shift. In the 9th day of the month at evening. I told you, he always specifies if he wants morning or evening. If he doesn't say evening, it's morning. If he wants us to do something in the evening, he specifies in the evening. So in the 9th day of the month at evening, this is the Hebrew word 6153, Areb. So right at dusk, this is when it happens. The time just before night, when the daylight has almost gone, but when it is not completely dark. So this Sabbath differs from Passover, which also begins in the evening, Leviticus 23:5 and Exodus 12:6 and verse 18. But Passover gives no mention of from evening to evening, but rather concludes in the morning. The Bokar, the dawn, which means the first appearance of light in the sky prior to sunrise. Leviticus 23:32. From evening, Horeb 6153, until evening, 6153, shall you celebrate your Sabbath. What Sabbath? The Sabbath of Yom Kippur, not the 7th day Sabbath. We're referring to the Sabbath of Yom Kippur. The 9th day of the month at evening. The term for evening to evening gives us a 24-hour period, which make this also distinct from other Sabbaths, but also clearly states that there are 2 distinct days. We have the 9th day and the 10th day. If you remember in the preceding videos, I told you the Sabbath is 1 day. Here we see 2 days, the 9th day and the 10th day. In other words, Friday night until Saturday night is not a day, but it's 2 separate and distinct days. This distinguishes the Yom Kippur Sabbath, which is a 2-day 24-hour period from evening to evening from all other Sabbaths, including the Passover meal Sabbath, which concludes in approximately 12 hours from evening to morning. And it gives way to the 15th day, which begins the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Passover Sabbath gives no mention at concluding in the evening, but rather gives way to the Feast of Unleavened Bread in the morning. The Yom Kippur Sabbath takes place on the 9th and on the 10th, and it is not the 7th day, nor are they the same as the 7th day instructions. Do we fast on the 7th day Sabbath? The answer is no. Is there anywhere in Scripture referring to the 7th day Sabbath being 24 hours, evening to evening? The answer, once again, is no. Again, this Sabbath is separate and distinct from any other Sabbath, including the 7th day Sabbath. Once again, in Genesis chapter 1, we see the phrase repeated, and the evening and the morning were the blank day. This is the conclusion of the two greater lights created in Genesis 1, 4, and 5. And Elohim saw the light that it was good, and Elohim divided the light from the darkness, and Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and this is the established order of creation. He called the light day, he called the darkness night, and the evening until right before the next morning, the bokar, the twilight, were the first day. Day, evening concludes into right before the next day. He said in Genesis 1:5 is the first day. Then he says again, the second day, the third day, the fourth day, the fifth day, the sixth day. Once again, I ask you, from evening to morning, that's an approximate 12-hour period. Is that a day? The day comprises a 12-hour period or a 24-hour period, as the day rules the night. So a day can be morning to evening, and a day can be morning, evening, until the twilight is a day. This is a 24-hour cycle. So let's look at the Day of Atonement. 24 hours, 2 different days. Specific day. Is the Sabbath 2 days or is it 1 day? Specific day is given. Leviticus 23:27 and Leviticus 23:32. Specific purpose is given. Leviticus 23:27 and 28. It is a set-apart convocation. Leviticus 23 and 27. It's unique to this particular Sabbath. We must fast. Leviticus 23 and 27. Offer an offering made by fire. Leviticus 23:27. Work is not permitted, like all Sabbaths. Leviticus 23:28. Penalty for not fasting on the Sabbath. Leviticus 23:29. Penalty is death for working on this day. Leviticus 23:30. The Sabbath is forever. Leviticus 23:31. It is similar to the 7th day, as it too is called the Sabbath of rest. Leviticus 23:32. It begins the 9th day at evening, which is similar to the Passover meal Sabbath of Leviticus chapter 23:32. It is unique from any other Sabbath because it is from evening to evening. Leviticus 23:32. Day of Atonement is the 9th and 10th evening. From evening to evening, it is a 24-hour period with 2 days. I hope this clears up the Yom Kippur era. Let's look at the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot. Leviticus 23:33. And Yahuwah spoke unto Moses, saying, Leviticus 23:34. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles, for 7 days unto Yahuwah. This is very similar, as I said, to the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Remember in Exodus 12:14 and 20, and Deuteronomy 16:3-8. Leviticus 23:35. On the first day shall be in holy convocation. You shall do no servile work there. Compare the Feast of Unleavened Bread in Leviticus 23:7. Coming back to the Feast of Tabernacle, Leviticus 23:36. 7 days ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. And on the 8th day shall be a holy convocation unto you, and you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. It is a solemn assembly, and you shall do no servile work on it. Compare Leviticus 23:8. Now, we see this language, the first and the 8th day, used in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, as in Exodus 12:18. Exodus 12:18, in the first month, going back to the Feast of Unleavened Bread, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day, from the 14th to the 21st. That's 8 days of the month at evening. Now, it concludes on the 21st, which is a total of 8 days. We put away unleavened bread on the 14th, which is Passover, but the 15th also begins the Feast of Unleavened Bread. See Exodus 12:8. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs, and they shall eat it. We will see this 1st and 8th once again in the section of specific days of New Moon's Day. I can't wait to get there. Oh, we're going to have us some fun. The Feast of Tabernacles. Let's review it. The 15th day of the 7th month. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 34 and 39. It shall be a feast of tabernacles, booths, tents, temporary dwellings. That's Leviticus chapter 23, 34 through 42. It is a feast, so cooking is permitted. Different from the Feast of the 7th day feast. Leviticus chapter 23, 44. Feast lasts 7 days. Leviticus 23, 34 and Deuteronomy 16, 13. Concludes on the 8th day, very similar to the Feast of Unleavened Bread, Leviticus 23, 36. They also both begin on the 15th day. The 15th, the 21st, and the 8th day is a set-apart convocation, which is then the 22nd day. So the 15th to the 21st and the 8th day is a set-apart convocation, Leviticus 23, 36. So we once again see this 1st and 8th. Now, this is going to be very important when we go to the moon day. This is very important because we will see this theme picked up again when we clarify the confusion of the actual days of the 7th day Sabbath of rest. On the 1st day, it is a holy convocation, a public gathering, Leviticus 23:39. No work on the 1st and 8th day, including any agricultural work, nor any money that can be made from of others' efforts, Leviticus 23:36. You can't put your workers to work on the Sabbath. 7 days you shall offer an offering to Yahuwah, Leviticus 23:36. Again, concludes on the 8th day with a public gathering, Leviticus 23:39. More specific offerings by fire unto Yahuwah. So, once again, thank you for tuning in, as we have 2 more sections left as we establish our Sabbaths, our feast days, our appointed times, and our new moons. Once again, if you have any questions or if you would like a complete email of this study, if you would like a complete study emailed to you, you can email me at newgenesis5111@gmail.com. Once again, if you have any questions or you would like this complete study in written form emailed to you, then email me at newgenesis5111@gmail.com.